This is Changeling the Podcast.
Welcome to Changeling the Podcast. Come for the glamour, stay for the vibes. I'm your host, Josh, and with us is your host, Puka. Say hi, Puka.
Ta-da!
What are we talking about tonight, Puka?
It's time to put a bow on Season 3 as we do our State of the Podcast before the Winterregnum,
Yes.
as is our wont. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, as always.
Yeah, we got our YouTube channel fully going. We've got still steady growth of people joining the Discord and whatnot. I think.
But the more the merrier, so
Yep.
Tell your friends and whatnot.
Yep.
So I have to briefly just wax poetic about my experiences this past weekend as well at PAX Unplugged, which, for anyone who's not aware, it is a large tabletop board game / role-playing game / card game, basically any non-video game convention in Philadelphia. And this time around, I and a few other people, including Terry from Mage the Podcast, we put together a little group of storytellers. We referred to ourselves as the Detention Center because we were all doing World of Darkness D10 games. And I got to run Changeling the Dreaming 20th Anniversary Edition, Mage the Sorcerer's Crusade, and Changeling the Lost 2nd Edition, all of which, this was my first time running games in person since before COVID, my first time running convention games, my first time running Sorcerer's Crusade or Lost. And they were all one-shots. 2 of them I put together myself, and it was exhilarating. Like, exhausting in a good way. So I can't recommend enough for anyone who's thinking about doing convention game stuff. Go for it. I mean, prepare, because I was definitely unprepared, but yeah, good times.
Yeah, I've never been to a gaming convention. I've done gaming at conventions, but never a gaming convention too.
This is really the only nerd / fandom convention I go to, just because it's local.
Yep.
I would like to get to Gen Con or Origins or something one of these days, but Dragon Con is just too much.
I'm hoping the Worldcon bid for Montreal
comes
through in 3 years, maybe? I'm not sure exactly when it'd be. But I was at the previous Worldcon in Montreal, and that was
nice.
Good.
I would certainly return to Montreal for that.
Yep.
In any case, I had considered trying to do a recording, basically doing the Changeling the 20th Anniversary Edition as an actual play, but after doing the running around and interviewing, I just didn't have it in me. So.
I did notice listening to that episode, a lot of people writing Fae adjacent games are familiar with Changeling the Dreaming.
They sure are. It was really, I was talking with Terry and Mike from Darker Days Radio about that aspect, and the responses, when I would say, I'm from Changeling the Podcast, we talk about Changeling the Dreaming, the responses ranged from oh yeah, I've heard of Changeling, and all the way up to, oh my god, Changeling, I love it. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, a lot of the ideas I think that Changeling pioneered have kind of percolated into the landscape.
Yep. So. I have no way of proving it, but I always felt like Changeling the Dreaming has a very high enthusiasm to sales ratio. Possibly one of the highest of role-playing games, but
I don't even know how you would measure that, really.
Yeah.
What would you... Surveys? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you can, but if you could, I'm confident it would do very well on that. So
I did confirm last night that at the one bookstore where I found 6 copies of Immortalize the Toy Box a couple of months ago and bought 3, the other 3 are still there, so I might go back and snag those.
Yeah, I've ended up with a few duplicates of things. I need to figure out what to do about that with shipping, although Canada's post is still on strike for a month now.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
So, and apparently the other, this is great topical content, but the other, what's it called? Companies that ship things,
UPS?
Yeah, that kind of thing. They're all overwhelmed now.
Oh, I'm sure.
So basically you can't ship anything in Canada, and US shippers are saying, nope, don't even try to go into Canada. So it's yeah.
No, just smuggle stuff. It's fine.
Yeah, but I think at some point we should think about something to do with some of my extra books. But because I love Dreams and Nightmares, but I don't need 3 copies.
Well, for folks who want copies of the toy box to close that enthusiasm gap, I've got ample at this
Yeah.
point. So.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the podcast. So we have 100 episodes. Woo!
Yay.
Really, we have more. We have
Yeah, we have 100 full episodes. Like, this won't be counted as a full episode.
no, but I mean, between like all the minisodes, we probably have something like 130. It's just 30 of them
Yeah.
are quite a bit shorter, so it feels like a milestone still.
Yeah. We have stats, right?
Yeah.
So were you looking at the official podcast stat? It gets confusing in this world. Like, we'd have to go through like Spotify to figure everything. Like, there's so many different places now. So
Mhm.
like, there's the main people who get into the weeds. We have our own podcast website, and that's what like Apple Podcasts, and if you're using a regular like a podcast app on your phone, or going to changelingthepodcast.com, like it uses that stat. But if you're using like YouTube Music podcasts, or using Spotify podcasts, or Amazon podcasts, or whatever, those do one download and then they share it all out. So you have to go there for those stats. Yeah, it's all over
Yeah.
the place.
From what I see on the website, so here I'm gonna look at the last 6 months because it's been about 6 months since we did one of these check-in episodes, and it's interesting. I mean, the largest category by far that of the platforms people used is other, and I don't know whether that includes Spotify or whether Spotify might be under
Oh,
unknown.
well, Spotify and YouTube Music would just have one. It only counts once,
Mhm.
from my understanding, and so it wouldn't even pick that up really. Other would just be you're using some other app on your phone or something.
Shrug.
Yeah.
Well, what I can say is that we've had a lot of listens in the last 6 months. I mean, like several
Mm-hmm.
thousand, at least according to the website. And the most popular day was November 4th, when we released the third of the Changeling 20th Player's Guide episodes.
Yeah, which is funny because that did terrible on YouTube compared to the. We had some other popular things on YouTube, which I don't show up on other things. So it's interesting. People from different platforms do different listens.
Well, weirdly, and I think this does align with the YouTube stats, the one that we have the most lifetime listens has cracked 1,000 listens on the website
Yeah.
analytics is Book of Freeholds. So,
Hmm.
interesting.
No, the YouTube stats. It's really intro to Changeling. Still is the
Well,
thing.
I mean, but Book of Freeholds is still quite high on
Yeah.
that list.
Yeah,
So,
and then second is the neurodiversity and ableism.
which is quite far down on the website,
Yeah.
actually.
So I think these are all very different stats. So interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess people love our pod. We should take from this is I think it would be overly banal to try to use our analytics naively to
Yeah.
try to change how we record our episodes or topics we do. I don't think that would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a purely just curiosity for me, kind of like, oh, isn't that interesting? I don't really know how to leverage this in any
Yep.
interesting ways. So,
Yeah, because it's like I look through all of it and it's like I don't see any patterns that would actually
no.
be actionable if we did want to.
Something that I do want to get back to, and I'll probably try and do this at some point in the coming weeks, is shoring up the playlists that are on YouTube. So, for anyone
Mm-hmm.
who is listening on YouTube or visits our YouTube, there are playlists that are like, here are all the episodes about the Kith books, here are all of the Changeling 20th episodes, here are all of the media inspiration episodes. So you
Mm-hmm.
can, have a curated selection if you want to listen through.
So that manually we have to do it? Or is it like
Yeah,
pull
but
out of the
it's
tags somehow?
easy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Some reason I thought it was pulling something out of our lost in the library or something, but never
No,
mind.
no, no. Although that's also a playlist on the
Mm-hmm.
YouTubes.
Yeah.
So we have season 4 to look forward to as well.
Mm-hmm.
I will share some big news. So, big news. Listener and occasional guest of the show, Fetch, will be joining us next season as special correspondent for Changeling the Lost read throughs, which is pretty cool. And, it won't be, I think it's going to be like 12 or 13 episodes total over the course of the season to get through first edition. I think the game this weekend kind of whet my appetite for going back to my old Lost books and looking through them and remembering. I remember actually when I first read the first edition Lost core book, it was on an all-day train ride to Montreal. So
Mm-hmm.
full circle. But yeah, so I'm stoked for that, and Fetch is probably far more knowledgeable about it than I am. So
Mm-hmm.
good times.
Yeah. That one, I don't know if I'm going to be in or not. Who knows? But I'm just thinking like scheduling on top of everything else. And time
Yeah.
It's probably. I'm not that into Lost. I think I've been. I feel like I should be. I don't have an objective reason not to be. I don't know, but I just.
Well, it was interesting in the game this weekend. So I was fortunate that I had veteran Chronicles of Darkness players, so I didn't have to explain dice mechanics or the setting or anything. And I think one player had tried it briefly before, but I mean, it was Sunday afternoon. I was exhausted. I was like
Mhm.
going through the prepackaged quick start. And I mean, it went fine, I think. Like, I certainly felt as though I could have done better or prepared better, but they were gracious and rolled with it. And at the end of it, though, there was this little bit of like, why would people play this game? Because it is, as I've said many times, and I know you've said similar things many times, it is PTSD, the role playing game.
Yeah.
So crafting a story for it which is engaging and not triggering and goes in interesting places and feels like it can be sustained,
Yeah.
it is a challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm
Like
hopeful that going back
role
through the old
playing it.
books will.
If the game was role playing your Durance and it was a one-on-one game, like I could definitely see that as like a one shot or something. But
I think there's some infrastructure for that worked in. Like, I
yeah,
can't recall off the top of my head if there's a section in one of the books that's like, here's how to do that. But
it's still a side thing.
yeah,
If you're,
the other big thing is that it'll be Changeling's 30th anniversary next year.
yeah.
So
Do
that's
you want to
cool.
say anything more on that, or
Behind schedule, but still cranking away on the books.
yep.
It's just life gets in the way, politics happens, people have stuff.
Well, Changeling 20th Anniversary Edition was published what year?
Yeah, I know, but
The core book?
well, so the other thing that I'm kind of reminding myself is that the first edition core book wasn't released until August, I think, in 95. So we at least have
Mm-hmm.
until August,
Yeah.
technically. But yeah, I think we'll have at least a few of these slated books out before then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we'll be able to do the
Yep.
full dozen, but there's
And
progress.
I have some. I don't want to get into the personal details, but I'm really hoping I can finally get my first Storyteller Vault Changeling book out soon because
Hooray!
my blockers are unblocking in the next few weeks. So
That's good.
we can mention it once I have it on a
Yes.
future episode.
Yeah, I do expect we'll have some Storytellers Vault read-throughs slash reviews slash interviews that we can do in the coming year.
And I want to talk about Nobilis.
Well, so we
Finally.
have
Yeah.
other stuff going on. So yeah, if we keep up the breakneck pace that we've been doing for these past seasons,
Yeah.
more or less, the lost episodes take up a chunk. The Changeling the 30th books and Storyteller's Vault books take up a chunk. But then other stuff we're thinking about, we have some theme episode ideas. We
Mm-hmm.
have the possibility of talking about Changeling adjacent games. I forget what else was on the list, but there is a list.
Yep. And if you have suggestions, you can contact us through our various means of contacting us with these
Yes.
suggestions. We can't promise we'll be able to do everything, but yeah.
Hopefully an actual play, a short one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually, something to put out there into the ether for listeners. So, Mage the podcast has done a number of non mage books that are kind of orthogonal to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And if there are books from other World of Darkness games that you think might be Changeling adjacent, those are ones that we could potentially do read throughs for.
Yep.
I do have a
Yeah.
copy of Guild Book Sandmen on my shelf now, so.
And there's other Fey RPGs that would
Mhm.
make sense to. What was it, Illyria or something? I keep hearing about. I've never looked at that one.
Oh, Deliria?
Deliria, yeah.
Yeah, that is the other Satiros game. Um,
Oh no, there was another one that was earlier. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of Fey games that we could
yeah,
also get.
I was very charmed that Pete Petruccia from Imagining Games, who I interviewed first in that interview episode,
Mm-hmm.
so his game, or the game he distributes, Broken Tales, that is very fairy tale themed,
Mm-hmm.
he was kind enough to give me a free copy. So that is
Yeah.
now in my collection.
Oh, and if you happen to be releasing a Changeling the Dreaming Storyteller Vault book at some point next year,
Yes.
reach out to us first, and maybe we can make something happen. Let's see.
And also reach out to me if you want to have a preview of it in Dispatches from the Vault, an unofficial web zine for Vault products.
Mm-hmm.
Just shamelessly shilling for advertisements and whatnot at this point. So
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah. and I don't know, a bunch of stuff in my life. Weirdly, I feel like the last time my life was like making this much of an improvement, personal life, was 2020. So I think my fate and the world's fate are going in opposite directions at all times. So
Okay. I mean,
don't know what
ride
to
that
think
wave.
about that. Yeah,
Well, regardless, I guess we'll aim to be back probably in February, right? That's usually when we end up
yeah.
starting up again.
We'll be out on your feeds, however you listen to us.
I dare
And
say we've earned a break, though, in the meantime.
oh yeah, I'm also feeling very done. Well, not done with the podcast, but
Winter
needing a
hibernation.
yeah. It's getting and the weather's very strange here, and then you said it's strange where you are too, Puka. Like
Yeah.
we had a week of winter so far, and it went away again. Now it's spring again.
Yeah. So is there anything else to say, or is that sufficient for state of the podcast?
Yeah, stay the podcast. We don't go through
Season
the
3, woo!
yay, going to season 4.
Yeah.
We beat 100 episodes. I'm not planning on stopping, but okay, we have to discuss it. We missed a tiny bit of official published under the IP holder, White Wolf, whatever, Onyx Path, whatever, changeling content, but it's a chapter of a LARP book. So I don't know if we'll be
Yeah.
covering it.
That's what minisodes are for.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to read that chapter of Laws of the Hunt, and we'll see.
Or like, I don't know, World of Darkness combat or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, does that have changeling content?
I think it might. I
Yeah.
forget if the martial arts from Lost Dreams are also in there or not, but anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, we are working also on some crossover stuff with some other podcasts, but we'll see if that comes
Oh,
out.
yeah. Yeah, even though we're entering Winterregnum, there will likely still be at least a bit of content released in the coming months, just not as
Mm-hmm.
regularly.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
But until then, take us out.
So until then, you can find our website, changelingthepodcast.com. Definitely join our Discord, discord.me/CTP. We have a Patreon, which keeps the lights on and keeps the hosting going, Changeling the Podcast there. We're still on Mastodon, so you can substitute there, Changeling Pod at dice.camp. We haven't really evaluated the whole shifting thing and the way social media is going. Who knows what things will be like come February. We're also on Facebook if you want to go there for Changeling the Podcast. We have a page there. You can always send us an email, podcast at changelingthepodcast.com. And our YouTube channel for Changeling the Podcast.
Links to all of which will be in the show notes to this episode. And who knows, maybe we'll have a blue sky by the time this goes out, but probably not.
Yeah. You can make official branded ones with your own changelingthepodcast.com. But I haven't really looked into that. Anyway, so and again, I'm Josh.
I shall abide as Puka.
Maybe Changeling needs like a reverse chrysalis, or maybe it would be the chrysalis because that's what like moths do. If the name's wrong, where you just sort of like curl up into a little cocoon for a few months. Because I think I feel like that for a little bit.
Changeling, the desiccation.